Okay, well, this is XR Telford here today because we're marking the first year anniversary of Telford Council declaring a climate emergency. And an anniversary is a good time to look back at what's happened in the last year and to think forward about what's going to happen in the future. And if we're going to look back, we need to start looking back by looking back 10,000 years really, because since the end of the last ice age, temperatures on the Earth have been very, very stable for 10,000 years. And it's in that time that humans have learned how to cultivate crops, what to grow, where to grow them, that our cities have developed and that our cultures have developed. In other words, all of modern humanity has taken place in very, very stable temperature conditions. As we all know now, we have now moved the average temperature up 1.1 degrees above where it was in pre-industrial times. And an average temperature sounds fine, doesn't it? What you have to think about is what's happening in the extremes. And we've seen the extremes in the last year, haven't we? We've all been horrified at seeing the fires, the floods that we've experienced as well in Telford and in Ironbridge. The Arctic temperatures have reached levels never ever recorded before, and the melting ice. We've seen all of that, and that's just with 1.1 degrees of warming. But actually, whatever we do, even if we did everything that climate scientists want us to do, it's not going to stop there. Because the kick to all of this is that although temperature and carbon levels are linked, they don't go hand in hand. Carbon rises first and then temperature follows it. That's called the carbon lag. And scientists estimate that that's anything between 10 and 30 years. Now that means the carbon that is in the air today, we have yet to experience the effects of that. And again, scientists say that the effects of that is at least another 0.6 degrees of warming. So that takes us to 1.7 degrees. We're now over the 1.5 limit that the IPCC wanted us to keep to. And of course, carbon's still going up. Okay, we're not reducing our carbon levels yet. We've had a blip with COVID, but they're still going up. So we're going to be hitting the 2 degrees with ease, and that means all the coral reefs have gone. And in case people think that maybe that's just a nice to have somewhere to go on holiday, the coral reefs are the breeding ground, they're the nursery ground for all of life in the ocean. So to me, it's a bit like the bees. When the bees go, we go, because they pollinate our food. When the coral reefs go, the ocean life goes, because that's where everything breeds. So the temperatures that are now being talked about is even if the world sticks to all of its promises, we will still be hitting 3 degrees above pre-industrial levels. So just think about that for a moment. Think about what 1.1 means in the extremes and begin to think about what 3 is going to mean in the extremes. And if we don't keep to our promises, the whole world, then we're on track for 4 degrees. So we're up here, and you've got to begin to think about, will our crops grow? Our crops that we've developed were down here on these stable temperatures. Are our crops going to grow? Are there going to be any insects to pollinate them? And what's the effect of that going to be when there's no food? Food supplies have stopped. When there's no water for people to drink, when there's mass migration of people. And this is okay, it's the social scientists, but it's not difficult to imagine that we are going to be in conflict and war scenarios. And I just want to really mention the oceans because, you know, water is an amazing, amazing substance. It's a sink. It's a sink for heat and it's a sink for carbon dioxide. And a shocking statistic is that 90% of the additional warming of the Earth has actually gone into the oceans. That means what we're experiencing on the land temperatures, have come from just 10% of the additional carbon we've pumped into the air and the additional warming that's gone with it. And I'm going to finish, I'm afraid, up the top here, because if there's anything that really, I thought I don't get shocked having read so much about, the climate anymore, but there is something that shocks me, and it's to discover that Shell and BP have got business plans for how they are going to cope if the world is hitting 5 degrees warming or more, and those business plans are for by 2050. So I'm devastated to learn that the industries that are pumping and making the money out of the fossil fuels, pumping the carbon dioxide in, are still working out how to make money when we've got temperatures of an average of up to 5 degrees. That's just incredible. And all scientists believe and say that's then catastrophic for life. So it's within this context that we're here today. We are marking what Telford have done, and you will hear our comments in a moment, but we're also putting it in this broader context and saying, whatever each of us does, however little each of us can do, however little the council has done, there is so much more that every single individual and the entire world has got to do. So I'll hand over now to what we're now saying to Telford and Wrekin Council.
I'm going to read a letter from Telford XR to the Council. To Telford and Wrekin Council, on the 1-year anniversary of your declaration of a climate emergency, we very much appreciate that Telford and Wrekin Council have acknowledged that there is a climate emergency, and we welcome the appointment of Carolyn Healy as Cabinet Member for the Natural Environment and Climate Change. We applaud the measures already taken to decrease the Council's carbon footprint and the plans in place for future measures. However, we are concerned that the Council, together with the Government, is not responding to climate change as an existential emergency. Latest climate science predictions tell us we are facing possible 4.8 degree increase in world temperatures, leading to billions dying from the effects of global warming. In this context, we need to see the Council focus on actions that will bring public support for the drastic and far-reaching measures that everyone who understands the climate science knows must take place. Therefore, we call on you to show leadership and courage and implement a climate emergency strategy that embraces these steps. 1. Tell the truth. Educate the borough by informing all residents about climate change. Clearly state what needs to be done to prevent further increase in world temperatures and what that will mean for the residents of Telford and Wrekin. Step 2. Use the tried and tested process of citizens' assemblies to construct a truly democratic dialogue. Other countries, boroughs and communities are already learning how to use this process and are reaping the benefits through greater public engagement, giving community support to difficult decisions. Step 3. Campaign with other councils and their communities to leverage change from government. Real and effective action can only come about when councils such as ours work with others of any political persuasion to bring pressure to bear on those with the real power to dramatically reduce our nation's carbon emissions. The latest climate reports are deeply disturbing and depressing, but ignoring them or treating them as alarmist is acceding to the lies of climate deniers. This country and Telford and Wrekin will not be immune to the effects of conflict and wars resulting from flooding, hunger, lack of drinking water, and the mass displacement of people in other parts of the world. The experience of COVID-19 is teaching us that we must listen to the science. There is a growing realization by the public that the future must change, that we cannot return to our old polluting ways of life. This wake-up call gives us a chance to plan for a non-fossil fuel future. We must all seize the moment. Telford and Wrekin Extinction Rebellion implore this council to extend an open invitation to individuals, groups and political parties of all persuasions to work together as the world moves ever closer to a nightmare future of 1.5 degree warming and beyond. With love and rage, Extinction Rebellion, Telford and Wrekin.